Welcome back once again to the Nexus. I am Phil, and above me is Jamie,
Hello.
and we are going to now look at Zul'jin in Heroes of the Storm, the first troll in the Nexus, I believe.
No, you're wrong, Phil.
Am
You are
I?
incorrect. Yes, you are. Nazebo has a troll on his belt, a dead troll head.
Ah, yes. You, you pedantic fuck.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, enough of that. Let's look at his abilities. On his Q, he has Grievous Throw. 50 mana, 8-second cooldown. Zul'jin throws an axe forward, dealing 130 damage to the first two enemies hit and marking them for 8 seconds. Marked enemies take 50% bonus damage from Zul'jin's next 3 basic attacks against them. So, does very little damage in itself, but enables you to take advantage of your auto attack abilities. It's interesting that it does damage to the first two enemies hit, because that means even if someone's hiding in a minion wave, you can still kind of get to them. And there is, some talents that affect that behavior as well in his talent tree. His W, Twin Cleave. Throw 2 axes in a large circular arc, dealing 116 damage and slowing affected enemies by 15% per axe for 2 seconds. So let me show you what that does. Well, yeah, so Grievous Throw is just a straight line skill shot. It's a fairly long one. It just throws a little axe out like that. His W is this big circle you've got here. And when you let it go, you've got 2 little axes that fly around, doing a full circle on each. Incredibly hard to land this act with any accuracy at all.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one to get used to. I had a game on him just before we came on, just to sort of see how he worked. And I was kind of getting the hang of it towards the end, but it's quite difficult.
It's a lot wider than I always think it is. Which always throws me off. And obviously anyone in the middle of this circle, will do nothing to them. The interesting thing, though, is that obviously because they travel in a circle, you can catch people on the way round. So if you miss someone, they can still walk into it and get afflicted by the 15% slow. Or stacking up to 30% if they get hit by both axes. So if they get hit by one going out and then another one coming in, that will stack up to 30%. Or if they get hit by both at the kind of apex of the circle. His E, Regeneration. Zul'jin channels to regenerate 25% of his maximum health over 4 seconds. Moving while channeling or taking damage will interrupt this effect. So I think this is a really interesting mechanic that makes him a very strong contender for another solo laner, similar to Alarak, Thrall, and Chen, where they are able to get that health back themselves, have that sustain in lane, and also kind of bully people out with some decent damage. His D, or his trait, Berserker. Activate to increase basic attack damage by 25%, but consume 2% maximum health per attack. Now, why would you want to have less health, we hear you say? Because his passive lets him attack 1% faster for every 1% of maximum health missing. And this little icon down here keeps track of his increased attack speed as health gets lower. So this is incredibly useful when you want to try and stutter step with Zul'jin, because it lets you immediately see what the timing might be. It's going to take some getting used to, obviously, because you won't immediately know what his attack speed is at base and what it will be like at, say, 75% or 25%. But it lets you keep a track of it a lot easier than kind of just keeping a look at your health bar. It kind of gives you a discrete numerical value. I think he's got a really interesting kit. I like the fact that I think you said earlier, and a few other people on Reddit have said that he's kind of like a auto attack Gul'dan.
Yeah, sort of the being at low health and then getting health back and getting a resource from being at low health, whereas Gul'dan gets his, he taps his taps for mana. You're getting that increased sort of attack speed. It's not directly transferable, but it's balancing your resources. So with Gul'dan, you're wanting to balance your mana with your health, and with Zul'jin, you're wanting to balance that bonus attack speed with your health.
Yeah, definitely. So his Q, it's actually quite a long range skill shot. You can get some decent width there. You can definitely hit people across like terrain with it. Get some cheeky little ambushes through bushes and such, like Dragonshire for the shrines, things like that. And basically what it will do is when you hit someone with it, it'll give this little axe icon, and that will stay there for quite a while. I don't know if it stays there permanently until you hit them. It marks it for 8 seconds. So it marks it for the full cooldown. Yeah. And then when you attack them, you just get your little crit ones crit icons there, which is always nice. Any ability that gives you crit icons, I immediately go for because it's just so satisfying to see them. So, how do you play Zul'jin? Well, I think he is, as I say, he's a very good solo laner, or he's going to be a good flanker.
Yeah, yeah. I've solo lane. I think there's going to be two ways to play Zul'jin. Either as a sort of a solo laner where you build more into your self-sustain and you build into that regeneration a little bit more and you build into the wave clear a little bit more, or you can just turn him into a gank machine and you pair him up with a pocket healer and you just go from lane to lane killing everyone. I think those are probably the two ways that I can see him being played. That's, I suppose, he doesn't have a lot of wave clear as such. Like his twin cleave's quite good if you can land it at the right bit of the wave kind of thing. But to be honest, he just auto attacks so quickly. He just kills the wave really, really quickly in and of himself.
Yeah, definitely.
If that makes sense. So he's not sort of like a Jaina who just walks up and puts an ability on the minion wave and it dies. But he can just sit in lane for days. He's quite an effective early game lane bully because you can just take people's health off so quickly, then get your own health back. I did find that he was quite mana intensive. Possibly because I was just kind of spamming abilities and not using them, on the appropriate sort of cooldowns and when I should be. But I did find he was quite mana intensive.
Yeah, I mean, because he starts off at level 1 with 500 mana, which is only 10 grievous throws. So on an 8-second cooldown, that's what, a minute and 10 of constant use before you're completely oom. Which isn't very long, really, if you're talking about like early game lane fights. Yeah,
no, not at all. You are sort of spamming that quite quickly. I think you're it's an 8-second cooldown. And the mark lasts for 8 seconds. You are encouraged to be using it pretty much on cooldown.
Yeah.
To be getting those bonus extra attacks. The crit damage.
Yeah.
You will burn through the mana very quickly with him. Would be my only thing is having him as a solo laner. He has to have a weakness.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He can't be. But in terms of being a solo laner, I don't think he's quite up there with Thrall, because Thrall can get health and mana back if you talent correctly.
Yeah.
Even early on, you can be getting mana back with your Chain Lightning, which it's not a lot of mana back, but it's something. Which means you're staying in lane that little bit longer before you're having to go and get the Sippy Cup or recall or whatever. Whereas he is pretty reliant on his Sippy Cup and getting those globes, especially if you've got someone else in the lane who you're solo laning against. I think in a straight 1v1, you'll probably kill Thrall if he sticks around, but Thrall will probably be able to out-sustain you in the lane, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely got potential though. Like if you're clever and you ban out the Thrall, I think he can definitely compete with, say, some of the second tier solo laners, like say Alarak. I just want to touch very quickly upon what I think is going to be one of the key combos that we talked about a little bit earlier, which is basically going to be Q into D. So basically you throw out your Q, you get the mark on there, and then hit D, and then you get your 3 auto attacks out, and then you turn your D off again. Now, because D is going to be sapping your health away, you don't want to be that Wood League scrub that just runs around with Dion all the time and dies horrendously quickly because you never have any health, because yay, attack speed and damage. Can't do DPS if you're dead, can you? As we keep saying. So I think kind of utilizing the Q into the D to give you that kind of most efficient damage to kind of health impact ratio is going to be really important, especially early game. As late game comes in, we see some of his talents. I think that might mix things up a little bit. But let's reset the level up to level 20 and ping us back over here.
Choose a talent.
All right, jeez. So level 1, Bone Slicer. Grievous Throw now pierces through all enemies, and the bonus damage increased by 15%. I think this is a good pick against. Again, if you're going to play maybe that kind of solo laner jungler type character, where you maybe want to hit all the mercenaries in a camp. Maybe you're going to be spending a lot of time fighting people who are sitting in minion waves, and maybe using the minion waves cleverly against you, or against a Samuro, potentially. where you've got a
What's
lot of bodies sat in team fights.
you're talking about using this to jungle, and certainly from the one AI game and the one quick match I've just played on him, so I'm not by no means an expert, and I'm probably wrong with this, but the mark stays up until you do your 3 auto attacks, so you could pierce. See, you're doing a 3-man camp. The ones on Towers of Doom, the
The little skeleton dudes, yeah.
because I think you would probably struggle to hit 4 with it. But you do three auto attacks, 3 auto attacks, 3 auto attacks.
Yeah,
and then you're almost ready to go. If you're looking at sort of really micromanaging your auto, well, not necessarily micromanaging your auto attacks, but you know what I mean, really being spot on how many auto attacks you're applying to everything. A bit like you are with your Illidan. You're when you're taking a camp, you can get health back off a camp on Illidan if you do your timings correct. In a very sort of similar way, you need to be sort of micromanaging that. I think it's interesting. Again, in lane, I was playing against a Zagara, and she could put enough stuff between her, like me and her, that I was maybe struggling to get the pierce onto her, the grievous throw. Whereas with that, I could just put it straight through her roaches and whatever other crap she's put on the ground, and get her with that.
Yeah, certainly. I think if you're playing against a team with a lot of summonable minions, that extra pierce, where you'll be able to pierce through everyone, will help a lot in making sure you can get the DPS applied onto the right target. I also think that with the extra bonus damage, it could compete with what I consider to be the other good talent in this tier, because one of them is absolute garbage. So it's a quest talent. Every 5 basic attacks against heroes increases Zul'jin's basic attack damage by 1.5. After attacking our heroes 120 times, his attack range is increased by 20%. So it goes from 5.5, which is the same as Vala, to 6.6, which I think is the same as Reyna with his 20%.
Yeah.
So sorry, you were going to say.
Just one interesting thing about this, and again, it was my first game on him, and I wasn't really playing him particularly well, but I actually found this quest talent quite difficult to complete because I was killing people before I was getting stacks up. If that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
It's still good to take even without the increased range because you're just making your auto attacks better anyway.
Yeah.
And then you're getting your increased percentage damage on that when you've got the grievous throw on them. This is definitely more for if you are going to be moving from lane to lane, constantly fighting.
Yeah.
You go and you hit someone in a lane, you bully them out or you kill them, and then you are moving to another lane straight away. You're not hanging about to help clear a lane or whatever.
Yeah.
That's someone else's job who's in that lane. You then move into the next lane where there's 2-3 other heroes. That kind. You're moving between the lanes with this because it's not like Seasoned Marksman where you're just right clicking on stuff and getting attack damage.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm just going to try and do some more maths quickly. So having done a bit of maths, the Q talent, which gives you 15% extra, to get the same amount of bonus damage for your Q from You Want Axe as Bone Slicer, you need to basically complete the quest. Now, as Jamie says, it can be hard to get that many attacks on a hero. Unless you've got some prolonged team fights. So maybe You Want Axe is something you go for on like Cursed Hollow or Warhead Junction, the bigger, slower maps where you're going to be having more of those team fights around stationary objectives and things like that. And they're a bit more kind of skirmishy rather than like all-in big fights like, say, Sky Temple or Towers of Doom.
Yeah, definitely, because you can be getting your stacks up and farming those stacks. Because
whilst Bone Slicer, the increased damage bonus here doesn't seem to give you that much more than You Want Axe, there is a talent later on that we'll talk about that synergizes really nicely with it. So it depends really on kind of what sort of game you expect to have. Bursty, kind of quick fights, or a slightly longer, more drawn out fight. Also, getting the attack range on things like Warhead Junction and Towers, and Cursed Hollow is, it gives you that little bit of safety net for getting the pokes in on people trying to channel, fighting around those objectives. So Arcanite Axes lower the cooldown of Twin Cleave by 0.5 seconds for every hero hit. Passive, when below 50 health, ability power is increased by 25%. Lower the cooldown of Twin Cleave by 0.5 seconds for every hero hit.
So
Even if you hit everyone on the team, it's 2.5 seconds off an 8-second cooldown. So that's 25. That's just over 25%, maybe 27.5, something like that. The passive, when below 50%, increased ability power by 25%. What ability power? What are you using? Power. I mean, like, even at level 20, Grievous Throw is 274, and our axes are doing 246 each, so that's 500. So an extra 25% on that is a number that I can't think of right now.
You know what 25% of nothing is, people? Nothing.
Yeah. So I think it's like an extra 125 damage on 500.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
It's really not worth it.
So it's really you know, it's a paltry amount. 274 damage, an extra 25%. You know, you're looking at maybe 30 extra. It's like I can't. And if you're at 50%, you're auto attacking and damaging so much faster. You're going to be outstripping any potential DPS gain there would be on the abilities anyway, especially given the extra effects of 15% extra auto attack damage, or the third talent you want Axe, which is basically an infinitely stacking basic attack damage talent. It's basically seasoned marksman with no end. So let's pick up Bone Slicer. Right, so level 4, an interesting selection of talents, one of which is very interesting indeed. But we'll come to that in a minute. So we'll start from the top again. Troll's Blood, regeneration heal amount increased by 75%. So I'm going to go take some tower damage and show you what the heal is like at base. And then we'll look at it with Troll's Blood. Tanking towers like I'm not supposed to. So the base heal, 25%. It's fairly standard. You get some cool funky music that plays when you do it as well. I really like that.
Yeah, I love the regen music is ace.
We'll just talk about that. And I was going to take some more damage. I'm going to select Troll's Blood. And then we'll heal up again. And as you can see, it's substantially larger. It's about 45%. I think it's a pretty good one for a solo laner if you need that sustain. If you're going up against a hardcore Thrall or someone like that who can bully you a bit more in return, and you want to be able to get that big chunk of health back. It's also quite good if you're playing against a team that has a bit more sustain than you. Maybe they have a Muradin tanking and things like that. They're able to get health back through third wind, or second wind, or third wind. You can duck out, you can get that big burst of heal back. I don't think it's the best talent at this tier, but I think it's certainly viable in some situations for saving your skin, especially, again, combined with some more of the regeneration talents further down the line. Let's just reset time. Let the killing begin. Now this one, I think, is the best solo laner team fight talent, hands down. When Zul'jin kills an enemy, so an enemy, not an enemy hero, his attack speed is increased by 6% up to 30% for 15 seconds. Basic attacks refresh the duration. Hero attacks instantly grant 30% attack speed. This is insane, this talent. If you are in lane, there is no excuse for you to not have 30% attack speed up all the time, because you can stack it really easily. Granted, it says when you kill an enemy, so I'm assuming that's another last hit mechanic like Azmodan with his Taste for Blood, Rag with his Q quest at level 1. You have to actually be the one that kills the enemy. There's no, I don't know if there's a grace period on this, but even if you're in lane, you should still get at least 5 last hits on minions. I mean, there's 7 of them in a wave.
Definitely.
You should easily get that. And then basic attacks refresh the duration, so just keep hitting stuff. Hit walls, hit other minions, hit the hero that's laning against you. You can always have that 30% up, and that is a massive amount of attack speed increase, as far as I'm aware. I think that's the same as a Reyna W, 30%.
I think it's comparable to like a full hatred stack Vala.
It's comparable with those other ranged auto attackers and their kind of ability to buff their own attack speed. It's also very similar to Greymane's W. If you take the level 1 talent Viciousness, where it refreshes the duration on auto attacks. So, but even better than that, because it's about you're attacking from a distance. as long as you get kills. And the hero takedowns instantly granting 30% attack speed means that if you're in a team fight, and it leads to, it's like Li Ming's trait. It's that snowball effect. You get a kill, instant 30% attack speed. That's going to enable you to kill the enemy more. Especially since if you're in a fight, you're probably going to be taking a bit of damage. You're already going to have some off your trait. So you're going to be able to throw those axes out at quite a rate. And I can't really see why you would take either of the other talents on this tier over this one.
I like the Troll's Blood for solo laning, but I do agree with you. It is insane. Headhunter, which is the final, is weird.
Yeah, it's really strange. So get a takedown on all unique enemy heroes. The reward is activate to reveal all enemy heroes for 4 seconds. Is it worth it? I don't think so. Really?
No. If you're worried about, if you want characters that grant vision, there's better characters.
There's other characters that could do it. Granted, it's anywhere on the map. But it's only for 4 seconds. I guess it could be useful to see if they're trying to sneak a boss on some of the larger maps, or try and scout out an area if you're going into an objective. But again, if that's what your kind of gameplay is, if that's the gameplay you want, there are better heroes. Take a Tassadar, take a Medivh.
Take a
Tyrande, yeah, with the hoot.
Even a Nova who could scout when she's in, you know what I mean? A half-decent Nova will be able to scout when she's invisible and things like that.
Yeah,
I just don't think it's worth it, the trade-off. That talent tier is too good to be taking something so situational.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, as I say, I think Let the Killing Begin is like hands down the best on this. I think Troll's Blood possibly has its place, but just the flat out attack speed increases from just hitting stuff is incredible. So that's what I think for 4. For 7, again, there's 2 here that I think are viable, but one a lot more so than the other. So Vicious Assault increases bonus damage hits from Grievous Throw. So this increases the number of bonus damage basic hits from Grievous Throw to 6. So that's a 2-fold increase. Basic attacks against afflicted heroes reduce the cooldown of Grievous Throw by 2 seconds. The cooldown on Grievous Throw is 8 seconds. If you're decreasing the cooldown of Grievous Throw by 2 seconds per hit, you only need to hit with 4 out of the 6 possible attacks. I don't think that's too hard to do.
No, not at all.
So you take the increased damage that you're going to be doing with your Q from level 1 for 15%. You increase that by 2-fold, and then you get the opportunity to reduce the cooldown by enough that you can just basically keep Q up on them all the time. I think actually Bone Slicer at level 1 is better than You Want Axe.
Yeah, I think with that, you're probably right. If you've gone Bone Slicer at 1, you should be picking up Vicious Assault at 7.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think there's any situation where picking up You Want Axe and then taking Vicious Assault is better.
Now, if you're going the crazy man's build, and you've gone for You Want Axe at 1, then potentially you might want to be looking at Recklessness. Oh, mixing it up a bit, going top to bottom. Ooh. While Zul'jin is below 50% health, his basic attack damage is increased by 25%. That's all his basic attack damage is being increased by 25%. So that's where the stacking at 1 will help you, because it's going to increase all of that base damage and base increase. It's dangerous though, because 50% of health, at level 20 he has 4,112. I can't remember where that sits, but that doesn't feel like a lot.
No, not at all. There's some tanks that start with more health than that, or not far off.
Yeah.
Also, the problem with Recklessness is, especially in a quick match environment, where you're playing with a healer who you're not on comms with, is you don't want them healing you.
Yeah.
Because you're then losing this bonus, this 25%. You've got a Lily, a Brightwing, a Charism who don't really control where their heals go, or just someone who says, "Oh shit, Zul'jin's got no health left. I better heal him up."
But is this where he fits into the ultimate shield team, where you take a Zarya and a Tassadar?
No, because shield teams are bad.
but shields don't increase your health, but do protect you from damage.
Yeah.
So you sit around just below 50%. You're not in immediate danger of dying because you've got the shields to go on you. You've got, obviously Tassadar will have to not spec into his leeching plasma, because otherwise it screws you over.
Well, exactly.
But certainly with the Zarya, I could see a Zul'jin Zarya combo working quite well.
Yes, yeah, or an Abathur, but again, he's not specking into the microbes because he's then healing you up.
Yeah. The attack speed on Abathur. Ooh,
Oh yeah, it's
crazy.
horrible. I think recklessness is the high skill cap talent here. Not just from yourself and monitoring your own health and being right, I want to be at 49% health, because you obviously don't want to be any lower than that because you're going to die quicker.
Yeah.
But also high skill cap coordination with your teammates, where they're not healing you unless you need that. They're not healing you above that 50%, just keeping you nicely topped up. I could certainly see incredibly good players using this to rip teams apart. The average Heroes of the Storm player, who we are in our recent experience far below.
I can see it having a very high pick rate and a very low win rate.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
And I honestly think that even with like high skill cap players, I can see that if they're good enough to position well enough to get the most out of recklessness, they can get just as much out of vicious assault, because that's an extra 65% damage on basic attacks. So it still outstrips it, unless you've got a fully stacked U1 axe, and then the tables may turn. There's going to have to be more maths than I can be bothered to do to work that out. Obviously the trap talent at 7 is bonus twin cleave damage at apex. If an enemy is hit by both twin cleave axes at the same time, they take 307 bonus damage. Yay!
Yeah.
Incredibly unlikely. It's really hard to hit at the best of times.
This is the talent to pick if you've picked the wrong level 1 talent.
Yes.
If for some reason you've misclicked and you have picked Arcanite Axes, you're probably going to want to pick this up and make the best of a bad situation.
Even at melee range, hitting people with the things is weird. Like, it doesn't actually hit them because it comes out the sides. It's like Alarak's Q, but without the forward bit. It literally comes out the sides of him. So if they're in front of you, they're safe, because you can't hit them. You have to fire it off to an angle. Like you have to literally fire it off at 90 degrees to yourself.
Yeah. So level 7, wrong place, wrong time, wrong talent.
Yeah. Oh. I honestly think Bone Slicer into Vicious Assault, I think, is key. His heroics. Now, this is when things start to get interesting. Both, I think, viable, but for different situations again. Tazdingo, become unkillable. It is what it says on the tin, except it's a slightly more dangerous version of unkillable. It's not like an Uther shield. It's basically...
it's not invulnerable, it's unkillable.
It's unkillable.
So you still take damage, but you stop at 1.
For the next 4 seconds, Zul'jin is unkillable and cannot be reduced to less than 1 health. But it can leave you at 1 health afterwards, which is a very good place to be. But there is the talent at 20 that makes it a lot better, and also it's a great escape. It gives you that extra bit of time to get the fuck out of dodge. And it can also allow you to make the most out of your damage with your D, because you're going to be sitting at 100% attack speed increase, and potentially some of the other talents that involve low life will also be coming into play. So it can help you get that extra bit of DPS out, say on an immortal or an objective. You just need to get those few last hits in. Then it could potentially save the day there. And also, it gives you that bit of grace where you get down to, getting low, you hit R, you can deal more damage, and then an Uther comes in and shields you immediately after your unkillable status comes off, and then heals you up with big fat heals, and then you're okay again. So I think it's a good kind of team fighty talent. I mean, they both are, really. We'll talk about Guillotine in a second, but I think it's going to be interesting to see some of the plays that come out of Tazdingo. I think in pro scene, there's going to be some crazy shit that's going to be pulled with this, in like 1v1 duels, 1v2 duels, and things like that. So I'm really interested to see what comes of it. But certainly on its own, there is scope for it to be used very badly. But I think it gives him that little bit of a safety net that he perhaps doesn't have ordinarily. Things like that.
Synergizes also really nicely with Divine Palm.
Yeah. If you get the timing right, if you pop them both at the same time, it's a bit more awkward.
Yeah, no, it's terrible if you put them both at
Yeah,
the same time.
again, it's as you say, it's that high level communication required. I think to get the best out of Zul'jin, you need to be able to communicate very well with your team, and that's why I think at the pro level is going to be really interesting to see how the kind of Tazdinga ult synergizes with things. That's if the Tazdinga becomes popular. They may all go for Guillotine, which deals heavy area damage. So Guillotine, Zul'jin launches a massive axe into the air that drops on the targeted area, dealing 446 damage plus bonus damage the lower his health is. And it is on a 45-second cooldown with Tazdinga on a 60-second cooldown.
Yeah, 45-second cooldown's not that long for an ultimate, for a damaging ultimate like that.
So I won't show Tazdinga.
I can see that being increased.
Yeah.
Probably to a 60-second.
So I won't show Tazdinga because it's fairly obvious what it does and it's fairly boring to look at. But Guillotine is slightly more interesting. So the range on Guillotine is massive. So if I go stand by my gates, we'll see how far down the lane it reaches. So it reaches about halfway down the lane. If you can see here. So yeah, about halfway down the lane. Which is huge. That's I think that's about the same range as Chromie's Q when talented. Which I think will lead him to be a fairly good Chromie counter.
Yeah, you slam that down on Chromie, and if you're not going to kill her, you're going to take a fair chunk of
her
health
okay,
off.
let's have a look at how much of damage it does baseline. So 446 with full health, just the default amount on there. So let's go take a load of damage. Just gonna go get nice and low. Let's go even lower. Let's go down to the maximum health. As you can see down here, we've got this little counter that's also counting up alongside our attack speed. Oh, and by the way, the trait can't kill you. The trait will always leave you at 1. And that's just our passive health regen there. So, at the lowest health we can be... toggle cooldowns. If we drop an R, it does 2,182 damage.
That's insane.
How much health does a Chromie have at 20? So to level 20, Chromie has 2,902 health. We're doing 2,182 with one hit. And it's a fairly quick... It's quicker than her W. So if you see her casting her Q, you can hit her with the Guillotine. So if she's just landed a combo on you, you can in return chunk her again. Chunk her back. It's going to be brutal against Hammer. It's going to be brutal against a lot of heroes, like the lower health of people like Vala. If Li Ming takes Glass Cannon, which should be suicidal to do, because the range allows you to pick people off when they're running away, similar to a Chromie W. It's got really good like engage. I mean, not so much engage because you have to be at low health already. But if you're at low health, if a team fight starts and you're on low health at the back, you could throw an R in, chunk the enemy team down. Then they have to think twice about whether they want to carry on with that engagement, or it might tip the balance in your team's favor, and then they can be overrun. Or it can be used when like you're chasing down the enemy team, or it can, I think there's a lot of ways where dealing a massive amount of damage from a long way away, as we've seen with Chromie, can be really good.
I really, now that we've looked at the numbers involved, really would struggle to see a situation where I would take Tazdinga. Just sort of my base sort of initial impressions of Zul'jin is that the optimum health you want to be at is about 75%. So you're getting enough. You've got enough health that if things go wrong, you can leave.
Yeah.
But you're still getting a fairly decent chunk of all his buffs.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're taking or what you call it at 7, recklessness, you want to be below 50%. That's obvious. But I think in a quick match environment, 75% is that sweet spot. Like Chen, you want him to be on that 50-50 for his brew. That's the sweet spot for Chen. With Zul'jin, that's 75% of his health is the sweet spot. So I think Guillotine, just even with that extra whatever it is damage from being at 75% health, you're just gonna absolutely delete teams in a choke point with it. allows you to interrupt an objective. You know, there's loads of things you can do with it.
I mean, at 25% health, you're only doing about five to 600 damage with the guillotine. But
It's not bad.
it's still a reasonable amount. I mean, it's still like
on a 45.
Yeah.
45-second cooldown.
And combined with all the other damage, like and the chase range that it gives you, I think it's definitely viable. I think it definitely balances things out again. It does seem to ramp up rather than be like a linear scale. So I think that's where like the Tazdingo safety plays can be. Like if you are playing against the Chromie, maybe you want to go Tazdingo to stop yourself insta-gibbing against her, where she drops a W on you because you're already low on health.
Yeah, that's true. But if you're good enough to know when to time your Tazdingos to avoid that, you're good enough to not be getting hit by Chromie.
Yeah, I mean, like if she takes temporal recall though, things like that, and you haven't got you got an Oriole, so you haven't got a cleanse on your team and stuff like that. I think there are places where both of them are good, and that's good. That's a healthy place for a character to be.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think your quick match talent's probably going to be guillotine. You're on with your organized team and you're practiced Tazdingo. You can set up some amazing plays.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to 13. Eye of Zul'jin, Grievous Throw can grant movement speed. So hitting an enemy with Grievous Throw increases Zul'jin's movement speed by 25% for 2 seconds. Fairly self-explanatory. Pretty good for chase. Synergizes again well with the other Q talents that we've picked up so far. Lets you stay in range of the enemy heroes to land those auto attacks.
Yes, definitely. This would probably be my go-to.
Yeah.
If I was taking a Q build, this would be my go-to talent.
Oh yeah, definitely. Forest Medicine. Regeneration no longer has to be channeled, allowing Zul'jin to perform other actions while regenerating. However, taking damage will still end the effect. So this again is more of a safety play kind of talent. So if you're getting low and you've already taken some of the regen talents earlier on, say like the Troll's Blood, I think that's the only regen talent there is earlier on, actually. So you've taken Troll's Blood. If you're having to bug out from a fight and you're just that far away enough to not be damaged, it lets you get some health back and get back into things or, escape a lot quicker. It also allows you to be moving around, perhaps moving to a lane to soak some XP whilst you're getting some health back, fighting around an objective, and then moving back into the fight. Or, doing some sneaky flanking whilst getting health back. So it stops E being so limiting. But again, it requires you have to be in that mindset of playing in the safer gameplay where you think, oh, I'm not sure about my abilities to stay alive here. I want to take the E talents to keep my health up high. Because obviously, if as a Zul'jin, as we've already looked at with a lot of his talents and his trait, if your health is high, you're doing less damage, you're less effective at your job. And if you're talenting into something that gives you health, then perhaps that's too safe an option.
One thing to consider, and it's a bit of a one, well, not a one-trick pony, but it's one sort of thing that you can pull off. Get really low in the team fight, nip out, slam your guillotine down, and then heal back up.
Yeah.
You could do some nice synergies there.
Yeah.
Get yourself down to really, really low, nip out to a really safe distance. You've got that massive cast range on the guillotine, and then get yourself back up to almost full health. With those two talents, I had to play around with them. With those two talents together, you can go from about 25% health to full health almost.
I mean, like there's a few things with like Tazdingo where you go low with Tazdingo, you deal a lot of damage in those 4 seconds, then you get the Uther heal, and then you heal yourself whilst you're running away. You get the cleanse, and you can get out of town and heal yourself up if you're out of the danger zone. But I think that because the damage stipulation is still there, it's still not as useful as it would be. But I think if it wasn't there, it would be ridiculously crazy.
Yeah, well, I originally read it and was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" And then I was like, "No, I need
actually
to read
wait, no." I think the damage ability limits that. It will be great if you're playing against a gank heavy stealthy team, say Zeratul or Nova, because it will let you take yourself out of the insta-gib danger zone. But they're at a point now where they can still burst you down fairly quickly, no matter what health you're on. So is it really going to help?
I think the problem with this talent isn't that it's bad, it's that in the current meta, it's very bad because the game is still so bursty.
Yeah. I mean, it might be better now that we're seeing tank with, like, something that we haven't touched on is some of the changes to resistance moving into armor, and spell shields moving into armor. I think they moved into armor, which are granting you different types of damage immunity, and some tanks have been given that as baseline. So now you're going to have a bit of a stronger front line to hide behind. Maybe you might take it as a get out of dodge, but then I don't know why you wouldn't take the damage talent to capitalize on having that meat shield in front of you. So I can't really think of a situation where Forest Medicine is really going to be picked unless you are unsure of your ability to stay alive, and in which case you probably shouldn't play Zul'jin until you're really confident with your positioning and your levels of what you can or can't get away with against various heroes. And again, if you're safety minded and you're worried about getting picked out, I don't know why you wouldn't go for Voodoo Shuffle. Activate to remove roots and slows. It's on a 45-second cooldown, so it's not the most immediately available talent or ability ever. But roots and slows are, a big part of the meta right now. You whack that on, and you can run out of all sorts of, nasty shit.
I want to make Forest Medicine and the Troll Regeneration at 4, the Troll's Blood at 4 work.
Yeah.
But I think you give up too much at those talent tiers not to take really Eye of Zul'jin at 13 and to not take Let the Killing Begin at 4.
I honestly think if you're confident enough with your Zul'jin play to be taking him in like Hero League or Team League, then you have to be confident enough to go, I am a damage dealer, I'm taking the damage talents, and I don't need the self-heal. My support will keep me alive, or I will play in such a way that I won't need the healing and I won't get caught out if I am low.
Yeah.
And you can then capitalize on your damage, because really those two talents play against the essence of what Zul'jin is. It's a character who takes the hits, deals out punishment in return, and then his tries to get out for his tries not to die because his team comes to help him. I think in quick match maybe he will see some more healing play, but you can't really balance heroes by quick match.
In terms of talking about organized team, which is how the game is meant to be played, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by taking those healing talents.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I say, the Voodoo Shuffle, I think, is possibly one exception where you might need that to just stop yourself being the target of the gank every time. It gives you that get out of jail free card. It gives your healer that much more time to respond to you, to their attempt on your life. But I think that the chase and the ability for Eye of Zul'jin to keep you in that kind of damage dealing area is not to be sniffed at.
In terms of the Voodoo Shuffle, though, the more you think about it, the more things it's actually not that good against. I could see this talent being reworked into a personal cleanse. I just don't think it's that good.
Yeah. I don't think it offers.
It's good, but it's very situational.
I rather than a personal cleanse, I can see it being extended to be like a time frame rather than just an instant remove.
And back to your original point that you're positioning here. Your range is long enough that you can avoid most of these things. Anyway, you shouldn't be in range to be getting these things slammed down on you. Maybe if you're unlucky and Azul comes out of the bushes and puts his root on you or whatever, yes. It'll be good then, but I think it's too situational to warrant picking up in almost any game.
Yeah, definitely. You can see, as you say, some situations, but I definitely think Eye of Zul'jin is the go-to talent at 13, really. 16, only 2 more tiers to go. Don't fall asleep yet. 16, Swirling Death. Twin Cleave Axes keep on spinning. Twin Cleave Axes cycle twice and can hit enemies on each revolution, but its hit cooldown is increased by 4 seconds. So it goes up to a 12-second cooldown. Lacerate. Each Twin Cleave Axe slows more. Increases the slow amount of each Twin Cleave Axe by an additional 15%. So that takes it up to 30% per axe or 60% if you hit them with both. Ferocity. Increases the attack speed bonus of Berserker by 40%.
Take Ferocity. Right now, level 20.
I think there are some things to be said about Lacerate, because if nothing else, it gives your 1 axe the same slow as 2 axes baseline. Ferocity increases your attack speed up from 1% to 1.4%. So it gives you 140 total. But if you're struggling to catch people, if they have a lot of mobility, maybe the guaranteed 30% slow might just tip you the edge, give you that edge. If you, especially when tied with Eye of Zul'jin, so you're going faster, they're going slower. I don't know. I agree with you that I think ferocity is better just because it's just a flat damage increase or DPS increase. If you've taken any damage.
Again, Zul'jin, you're not picking him up for utility. You're picking him up to chip people in the face.
Yeah, but I'm mainly thinking utility for himself to help catch those perhaps more mobile characters because he has no engages, he has no mobility. He just walks around at this speed. He just plods, stomp, 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 stomp. He just plods around at this speed all the time. There's nothing that really makes him go that much faster except for Eye of Zul'jin, and you don't get that till 13.
I didn't.
I mean, I definitely see what you're saying. Yeah.
I just don't see the point of it.
I don't see the point of
Like,
swirling
especially-
axes in general, to be honest, or
Well,
twinkly.
yeah, I quite happily just not have that ability, and I still think if he just had Grievous Throw and Regen, I would still think he's a viable pick.
I think if there was a talent at this point to like change up the radius of how it threw, or even if it's baseline ability, instead of it just being a constant fixed radius,
Yeah,
it depended on where your cursor was, so the circle size was bigger depending on how far out you were aiming, something like that.
I think it needs something like that to make it good. So you can just get a quick axe throw off.
Yeah, so you can.
The range on it's too long to make it useful in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because it's the travel time isn't bad, but it's not stellar.
Good. Yeah.
And like if you could target, say here, you can't see this, but target, say here, and have it be half as wide, so you could properly hit a decent chunk of a minion wave with it. I think it would be a bit better. Like you can play around with it, firing it off to the side and hitting people with both as they come in. But I don't know. I think for flat DPS and seeing as we're building into a very kind of auto-attacky build, I think ferocity is just kind of flat out the best numbers wise. I mean, there may be someone that can prove me wrong on this, and I think swirling death could be interesting if it did more damage. It could be a useful zoning tool because it just keeps swirling around and slowing people. So it's quite good for like zoning an area out. But I don't know.
Yeah. I keep trying to feel like we're trying to justify things that are difficult to justify.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I see your point, and a 60% slow is good, but you've taken the 25% increased movement speed
At 13, yeah.
at 13. You're not then going to be struggle to basically keep that up all the time with your cooldown reductions on your Q. So you basically can have that up all the time, even if you aren't hitting the same, even if you just fire it off into a minion wave so you can get the 25% increased movement speed to chase someone down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's worth it. Ferocity is so good. Yeah, it's not a massive increase when you do the numbers, but because you're auto-attacking so quickly, and your auto-attacks hit for so much, it adds up over, individually on an auto-attack, it's not a massive thing, but you're getting an extra auto-attack off a second, almost-ish, with the maths there. So say you're getting 3 a second standard, with this you're getting almost 4. That's basically a 25% damage increase. I'm sure someone's going to do the maths on that and be, excuse me, I think you're incorrect. But that's certainly how I understand it to work. And it's just as a flat numbers increase, that's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I think definitely our top pick for 16 is ferocity. And then at 20 is a slightly interesting choice. Buzzsaw, the guillotine keeps travelling forward. By quite a considerable amount. It's not a small line. It's pretty big, and it also looks pretty cool because it turns into 2 swords that kind of spin through the ground. Or Ensnare, which is a callback to the Warcraft 3 trappers, or I think they were trappers.
Yeah. Yeah, you could take it on troll hunters, and you could throw it up.
Yeah,
into
yeah,
net
and it was
fires and stuff.
insanely OP because you could just keep cycling through all your trappers and snaring them. It's a 60-second cooldown to root the first enemy hit for 2 seconds. I think it's very easy to outplay.
Yeah.
I think if you know that their Zul'jin's taking that, then you can outplay it fairly quickly, unless you get jumped by him in the jungle. In which case you might be in trouble. Like if you're a Li Ming or someone like that, and he grabs you within snare before you get your teleport off, then trouble is ahead.
Yes,
But,
definitely. Just interestingly with Buzzsaw, I don't know if from your perspective, but I think I'm not sure if the text is bugged.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing after impact, the guillotine continues forward, dealing 0% of guillotine's damage to enemies in a line.
Yeah. In the game, it says 50%. So,
Okay.
on the quick match screen, it says 0% apparently. But yeah, if we look at the radius for it, basically, if you drop it on yourself, it will travel further forward than you can cast it initially. So if I cast it halfway across the lane, I can hit the enemy towers. What? Is that not crazy to anyone else?
That is pretty good.
I mean, that's
if you're using it to hit towers, I don't know if it's the best.
No, but I just mean
I
like
know what you
the
mean,
fact
yeah.
that you drop it and then it charges through an entire enemy team. The chase, Jamie.
Oh, the chase potential and it's insane.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree.
And especially since it's going to deal 50%, so it can still deal like 1,000 odd damage. If nothing else, it's a brilliant minion wave clearing tool. If you're at low health, you just drop that, and it's like, who needs lava wave? I've got a massive buzzsaw.
Well, yes, quite.
Who misses?
It's good. There's no doubt here. I think if I picked up Guillotine, well, obviously if I picked up Tazdingo, I wouldn't be able to pick this at level 20 because that's how the video game works. But if I picked up Guillotine, you are doing yourself a massive disservice by not picking up the level 20 to go with it.
Yeah, I think it just adds so much more. It has so much more range, if nothing else, which I think adds a lot of not utility, but a lot of kind of flexibility for because if you get low, to being able to throw that much damage out from that distance, even as you're retreating from the fight, is massive. It really discourages people to follow you as well. And I just think a 60-second cooldown, 2-second route. It's like just pick Thrall if you want to root people and then hit them with auto attacks and throw stuff at them and have increased movement speed. Pick Thrall.
Yeah.
Because you've got it as a basic ability, and it's going to be infinitely better than Ensnare. Because at least like the wolves go through minion waves. This doesn't even go through minion waves. This hits an enemy.
And they do a little bit of damage, and they proc your frost wolf.
Exactly. They're like If you pick Ensnare, play Thrall. Is our basic advice here. But definitely Buzzsaw. But Tazdingo really begins to change things at 20 with that Amani resilience. So let's pick that up. Tazdingo, Frosty. So it's when Tazdingo ends, Zul'jin heals for 50% of the damage he dealt during Tazdingo. So obviously, if you're low, you're going to deal a lot of damage. So let's take some damage. Let's come over here and we'll go Tazdingo, and then we'll go And you can see the health bar creeping up. So I went from about 25% health to 75% health probably in 4 seconds, which is pretty nice. And you've dealt all that damage, and I didn't even have a Berserker on. I keep forgetting about it, in fact, in this try mode. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to. But you deal sick amounts of damage, you're unkillable, and then you heal for all the sick amounts of damage you've just dealt. At that point, Tazdingo really changes things, I think, and becomes level with Guillotine.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely.
again, it depends. Like, it really feels like Zul'jin is like, am I going to try and me and my team going to try and blitz this game quickly, or is it going to be a slow burner? In which case, which way do I want to build things?
Yeah,
Do
no,
do I take the quest talent at 1? Do I go for Tazdingo for the level 20 end game? Things like that. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
I think Buzzsaw's still so good at 20. It's difficult to.
I think it would be Buzzsaw would be even better if it dealt full damage, but that would be insane. I think dealing 50% of damage makes it good, but not amazing. Because
Yeah.
1,000 damage at level 20, it's like a quarter of a Zul'jin health bar. You know, if they got a lot of squishies, then it can definitely disrupt because it will hit their tanks for a shit ton, and then it will buzz through the rest of their team.
Oh, definitely.
But if they build
I-
slightly tankier, if they've got a bit more kind of heal up after that, because if you're dealing it from that distance, you're probably not in the midst of the fight. So I don't know. I think Tazdingo has the better level 20, but Buzzsaw is the better level 10. Which
Yeah, the
again,
guillotine is-
guillotine is the better level 10. So which again, it plays into the idea of like, is it going to be over before level 20? Yes or no? How do
Well,
I?
that's the thing.
And also, you know, how are you playing with your team? How are you, you know, how confident are you with sitting near low health and having that 4-second window to try and get back up? You know, I think guillotine is an easier one to play with as well. So I think it's going to be like the low skill cap in inverted commas.
Yeah, yeah.
Pick.
Don't get me wrong. Tazdingo and Amani resistance is amazing.
Yeah.
Really, really good. I just think you'll get more out of guillotine over the course of a game than you will Tazdingo.
Yeah. I can definitely see that.
But then with Tazdingo, it will allow you to make those sick plays.
Sick plays.
So yeah,
Sick plays.
it's how you want to play him, really. But I think it's good that both ultimates are viable. And
Oh yeah,
you know,
definitely. I mean, and also I think both ultimates kind of change his playstyle a little bit. Like you can be more aggressive with Tazdingo, whereas with Guillotine you hang back a bit because you've got the range.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think Blizzard have done a really good job with his character and keeping him relatively balanced. Unless you play him really well, in which case he's gonna crush you. Which is how it should be. I think like they touted like Li Ming as a hard character, but she really isn't. And there's some other characters out there that are hard and really aren't. But I think Zul'jin genuinely is a hard character. I don't actually know what he's labelled as. Jamie, can you tell me?
Medium, I think.
What?
Let's have a look. Let me just have a look. Z for Zul'jin. Difficulty medium.
Yeah, so I think maybe he just has a very wide skill cap. Maybe he's very medium to get into, but I think to get the most out of him is going to be very difficult and very much a balancing act.
But it's the same. Lily, for example, just to pick up because my eyes fell upon her, is an easy character. But to get the absolute most out of
You've
Lily
got to
is very
press at
difficult.
least 3 buttons.
You see, you don't agree with me that Lily's a particularly difficult character
I don't
to
think
play.
Lily's difficult at all. I think it's difficult to get your head around the concept of Lily as a damage character, but I don't think she's hard to play as a damage character. You just
No,
pick, you
but
just
even
pick
as
the
a
other.
healer,
You just
to
pick the other.
play her
tab.
really well as a healer.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. I think it's actually fairly similar to Zul'jin. It's a lot about positioning.
Yes, yeah.
It's
Easy to play,
yeah.
very difficult.
And
to
I think he has. If you want to play Zul'jin, you have to have a good awareness of the game and of the map, and to be sure of where you're positioning yourself in a fight to do the most damage without getting insta-gib because you're at low health, trying to get more damage out.
Yeah,
It's as you say, it's a balancing act.
yeah, it's
But yeah, I think that's kind of our go-to talent build. Obviously, as we say, the heroics choices can kind of be changed to suit. You could go for the stacking quest talent. You want axe and go into recklessness if you really want to deal kind of the sustained damage. Maybe on Immortals, on Battlefield of Eternity, that would be a good one to go for. You take some damage, you go nuke the shit out of the Immortal. I don't
Yeah,
know, but I think this build here, the kind of mainly Q orientated build, with the kind of lots of attack speed buffs in there as well, I think is going to be pretty sweet. So thank you for joining us for this kind of run through of talents. I know it's been kind of maybe a bit boring at times to watch, but hopefully we've kind of discussed a few things in our mediocre Wood League opinion. And what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into a game with Zul'jin, possibly versus AI, maybe quick match. We'll see what the queue times are like, and we will see how we fare.